Martin Sonovo, the 2015 presidential candidate of the National Conscience Party. Good morning to you and Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm excited seeing you this morning. We're looking at the rule of law. To you, what does that mean?
The rule of law means that everybody must obey the law, and everybody includes individuals and institutions. It also means that nobody is above the law. In other words, the law dictates how everybody and every institution should behave. And that includes the commander-in-chief. And that is the meaning of the rule of law. Everybody must comply with the law. Nobody is above the law.
Okay. Well, if no one is above the law, we understand that some government officials, top government officials, are given some sort of discretionary powers. You know, they they're not on the same level as the common man. Do you think that should be, do you think that's, what's your take on that? Do you think that should be scrapped out, that everybody should be on the same level as regards the rule of law?
Well, everybody by law is on the same level and equal before the law. Everybody. And that is why, if you feel that the federal government of Nigeria has violated your rights, you as an individual, Tony, you can sue the federal government of Nigeria. And you can get judgment. And the government is supposed to comply. You see, the reality is that the systems are in place. Compliance is an issue. And there's a lot of lawlessness and impunity in Nigeria. What's the difference? Lawlessness is disregarding the law. Impunity is doing it and daring anyone. So, the law is there. There is law enforcement to enforce the law.
Yes.
That's the meaning of law enforcement. The laws are there. Now, what happens is because of abuse, especially in a place like Nigeria, where the abuse has become kind of institutionalized, because it is the more influential people in the society, and corruption allows it. Because don't forget, if you talk about law enforcement, the law doesn't jump out of the law books and enforce itself. It's human beings that are supposed to enforce the law. For example, I steal your phone. You call the police to enforce the law. Stealing is against the law. You call the police, I bribe the police. The police let me go free. It doesn't mean the law is not there.
Yes.
But it is human beings that are supposed to. People are empowered to enforce these laws. And if they are corrupt, they may not enforce them.
Okay, I want to ask you, do administrations violate this concept? Do you think...
Oh, some, but
we're looking at Nigeria as a subject now. Do we, with what you have said, are you saying our administration, I'm not talking about just the present one, administrations that have come and gone, do they violate this concept?
Oh, yes. There are several violations we have seen. And the leading constitutional lawyer in the country has written a book emphasizing on the lawlessness and impunity in Nigeria. That is Professor Ben Mwabeze, SAN. So it's known. But this is something that we must realize the consequences of lawlessness. Because if Tony provokes me, what stops me from killing Tony is that the law says I must not. That's what stops me. So if you subvert the law, you are subverting society. Because it will lead to anarchy when it becomes prevalent. Now, have governments in Nigeria been violating the law? Yes, clearly.
Can you tell us why you think this government is violating, or government of Nigeria is violates?
I'll give many examples.
Examples.
We all agree that elections get rigged in Nigeria. That's a violation of the law. There are two laws that prevent you from rigging elections: the Constitution and the Electoral Act. And they are very clear about how elections should be conducted. But we know that we have seen collation fraud. We have seen direct manipulation of election results. We have seen use of slush funds, which in itself is corrupt. And we have seen the use of slush funds beyond the election finance limit. For example, the Electoral Act says you cannot spend more than $1 billion for a presidential election.
Yes.
But we have seen parties and candidates spend $500 billion.
How do you know they spend $500 billion?
Very easy, very easy. For example, you can't know everything they spend because some cannot be tracked.
Yes.
But there are the ones you can know. And those ones are even in excess of $500 billion, showing that they have spent more than $1 trillion. Let me give you an example. I come to Super Screen. I put a 30-second advert on Super Screen.
Yes.
and I pay 300,000.
Yes.
If I put 10 every day, that's 3 million a day. If I put it for 100 days before the election, that's 300 million. And I may have done this in 20 TV stations. So you can track some of it. And let me tell you, you know, we need to stop being deceitful. Because when we raised it in 2015, INEC said there was no way to track it, which was deceitful. Why am I saying it's deceitful? The same INEC now said that the 2015 election cost us 1.5 trillion, showing that they had the capacity to track. But they were conniving. And that's also an abuse because INEC is independent.
You assume they were conniving.
No, but
or they connived.
hold on. I'm not assuming. I'm telling you what they have confessed. They have said that it cost 1.5 trillion.
Yes.
The elections come. So it shows they had a way of tracking. But they refused to track. And that's what I talked about law enforcement. So if the individuals and institutions which have the mandate and are maintained with taxpayers' money to enforce the law refuse to enforce the law cannot enforce itself. Don't forget that if I violate your right here and you don't report me to police and you don't go to court, I get away with it.
True.
I get away with it.
So that means it's also on the responsibility of the victim.
Oh yes, to activate the process. But what we're now saying is that even when you activate the process like we did in 2015, that INEC, these people are spending beyond the electoral finance limit. Well, we have no way of tracking. That was deceitful because the same INEC has published that it cost us 1.5 trillion. Now, the capital budget for Nigeria in 2015 was 650 billion. So you wasted almost 3 times that on an election. And the election was worthless. It was a wasteful charade. Because we know that votes didn't count and the evidence is there. And it is in the public domain. So why did we waste that amount? If we had used those funds, 10% of 1.5 trillion is about 150 billion. So easily we could have built a world-class hospital, better than the ones we fly to abroad, with just 10% of that amount. And maybe allow the man who was in power to continue.
Okay, I don't know how we got to where we are today, but I know that in democracy there's no room for impunity. And with what you're saying, you're making it look as though we strive in this word called impunity. How did we manage to get to this stage?
I hope you won't take any offense. I blame the media because you belong to the media.
No,
I'm not blaming you as an individual.
No, you continue. Go ahead.
I'm not blaming you or Tony as individuals. It is the media as a collective. What do I mean? Because if you hear me out, maybe you will agree with me. The Constitution is very clear about the role of the media. The media is the watchdog of society.
Yes.
So when there's a deviation, it is not the duty of opposition parties like us. It's actually the duty of the media by Constitution. The duty of opposition parties is actually to present alternative policy positions and alternative candidates. That's our duty as opposition parties. It is the duty of the media constitutionally to be the watchdog of the society. So how we got here is that you see the first deviation. We say, well, no system is perfect. You see another deviation. Say, well, what can we do? You see another deviation. You say, that's how they have been behaving before. Deviation becomes the norm. Let me give you an example. This current government has violated so many court judgments with impunity. So many.
Yeah, but we need to hear from you. You need to give us instances.
So many. Oh, very good. El Zazaki. Court has granted bail to El Zazaki. Has anybody respected that? No. El Zazaki went to court and defeated the federal government of Nigeria on the demolition of his house. And the court ordered the federal government to go and rebuild El Zazaki's house that he demolished. Has the government rebuilt it? There are so many cases.
Aside El Zazaki, you have another...
Oh, yes. The Constitution of Nigeria requires Constitution, the highest law, higher than the Electoral Act, higher than the Act of Parliament. The highest law is the Constitution. It requires that the government of Nigeria must be constituted and run to reflect federal character. Okay. Now, we appointed about 12 security chiefs. And if you have 12 security chiefs, and you comply with federal character, you're supposed to have 2 per geopolitical zone. That's federal character. But what did we do? We appointed almost exclusively from 3, 4 geopolitical zones. And then we completely did not appoint any from a particular geopolitical zone. That's a violation of the Constitution. That should not be tolerated. But because, that's why I'm saying that we have come to accept it. Because the media did not hype it.
I have to come in there. You know, when you were talking about the media, I kept quiet because we are all in it. And so if you're blaming the media, it's okay. But I must tell you that you're not totally correct.
Okay.
We did not accept it.
Okay.
Like on the show, we did a part 1. And we talked about some of these things this government are doing that is not right. We are not to conclude it. We have our viewers that are supposed to call in to say, hey, we have the citizenry that is supposed to react. So it's all encompassing.
No, agree.
When you say we're not saying it, I'm not supposed to come here and say, hey, this government has failed us. No. I give you a platform to tell us what you feel about this government. And that's why you're here today.
Yes.
And I'm not going to stop you from saying, hey, whatever you feel about it. I am the presenter. I have the studio. And we say, oh, come. Is it okay with the way the government is running things? You're also part of the country. You ought to say, hey, it's not okay. We need to put our mouths together. It's not going to be a one-person
so
thing.
The media is a platform.
So we talk about it regularly.
Agreed, but in any responsibility, someone takes a lead.
Yes.
For example, in the responsibility of presenting alternative policy positions
Yes.
and candidates, it's opposition parties.
It's true.
So that's my point. I'm not saying that the media alone is to blame.
Okay,
I'm
because
saying that
we are all in it together.
The Constitution makes the media the watchdog, and I'm saying that the watchdog is watching, but it should watch a lot more.
We'll do that.
The watchdog is missing a few things.
Thank you, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
If you say no one is above the law,
No one.
what do you have to say about amnesty? Because we have had cases where people were granted amnesty, and if they've done that crime, that criminal offense, that large, that serious, and we're given amnesty, does that make the government corrupt? Does that?
No.
What's your take on amnesty?
No, the law allows it. You can't do anything outside the law. That is actually the meaning of the rule of law. If you act outside the law will be enforced. Amnesty, whichever word you use, prerogative of mercy, nolle prosequi, they all mean the same thing. They are in the law. The law allows prerogative of mercy. The law allows nolle prosequi. Nolle prosequi is stop prosecution, effectively. So, in other words, I may have committed armed robbery, but the law allows the Attorney General to issue a nolle prosequi, and that's the end of that case.
Yeah, that's the question.
No, that's the law. No, that's the law.
Let's question the law.
Can you question the law? You can only amend the law. You don't have authority to question the law. If you think that the law is not right, you raise it. And there's an amendment process. And don't forget that the law identifies the people as the sovereign.
I'm going to hold it on there. We have a caller here, Engineer Martin. Let's get this call. Hello, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Speak up, please. Yes, better. Okay, upholding the rule of law. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for calling. Yes.
You see,
Thank you, sir.
democracy is government according to the dictates of the majority.
Yes.
And that is what the Constitution provides. Now, that majority has capacity to amend the law. And the law provides a process. That majority, which is you and I, we are, according to the design, represented by our elected representatives. So we have ceded our authority to them because it's impossible to call 200 million Nigerians to come and have a discussion.
Yes.
Where do you call them? Where's the venue? So we have said, okay, let us have constituencies. Each constituency send us someone so that those people will represent us. So you have those people in the states in the House of Assembly. In the local government, you have them in the councils. On the federal level, you have them in the National Assembly. So you have given your authority and mandate to them to help you. If you think the law is not right, you write it up, you send to them. They will amend the law if they agree with you.
Okay, I want us to just look at this because you made mention of Zanzaki's case. Some other person will tell you about Dasuki's case also.
Sure.
We have all of these things. What are we supposed to do if a sitting government is not following the rule of law? What's our own role?
Very simple. This is a super excellent question. The first thing is that you will not expect the ordinary Nigerian, especially with the level of illiteracy, to know as much as a TV presenter. That will be naive. You don't expect the average Nigerian who has only a primary education to know what the Constitution says. So how do they learn it? They learn it from the media. That's number one. When there are these deviations, it is our duty, civic duty as citizens, but the primary responsibility, like I said, is the media. Because the media has the role of educating, informing. And then the Constitution also says they are the watchdog. The watchdog is the one who sees the deviation first. So the media is supposed to highlight it. And now, in a democracy where the people are powerful, not the Nigerian pseudo-democracy, because what we are doing in Nigeria is not democracy. It's a pseudo-democracy. No, it's a criminocracy. That's what I call it as an individual. It's the government of the people by criminals for criminals.
You think everybody is a criminal?
No, I said of
or
the
have
people.
criminal tendencies?
It's a crime to break the law. So when we are defining criminal, it doesn't mean you have been convicted. It means that you're committing crimes. For example, corruption is a crime. Whether you're convicted or not, it's a criminal act. So we can wait till you're convicted to call you a criminal, but the act of corruption is a criminal act. So I'm just using it generally. So now, what are we supposed to do? What we're supposed to do is that we're supposed to flag it. Just like you say, that you bring up the issues on the program. We're supposed to flag it. When we flag it, the National Assembly, being citizens too, and responsible patriotic citizens, the members are supposed to see it and raise it. Because don't forget that we are the sovereign, but they represent us. Now, if they raise it, the executive is supposed to take immediate correction, especially if they agree. If they disagree, it depends on how the National Assembly sees it, because one is Oga. The Oga is the National Assembly, don't forget, they represent the people. And that's why they have the authority to impeach the executive. If they think the matter is serious and impeachable, they will impeach the executive.
And you think our National Assembly can impeach our president right now? Do you think,
Okay,
I'm not saying that the president is
motions.
guilty, but have you seen with their, even if, will I call it the body language, or will I call it with what they're doing? Do you think they have the capability? Do you think they can actually stand and impeach the president?
Oh yes, that's what the law provides.
The law provides. I'm saying, with the people we have in the National Assembly,
you have to do
do you think
you have to do
they
it
can
according
do
to
that?
law.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm coming.
Do you think?
Let us say what the law says. What does the law say? If you see impeachable offenses, you raise it. For the indictment, you need 2/3. After the indictment, the chief judge will order an investigation. If the investigation confirms the indictment, you go for the kill. It can't be done. There have been impeachment motions in the National Assembly. Governors have been impeached in Nigeria. So why do you think it cannot be done?
Because you said, why I'm thinking that way is because you said we have criminals.
Oh yes.
That's what I'm looking at.
If the criminals are a majority in a democracy, don't forget, then crime prevails. Because the democracy is government according to the dictates of the majority.
And I don't think all of them are.
No, I didn't say that. You are asking a question. It's hypothetical. I'm giving you an answer to your hypothetical question. No, it's a question. I'm asking you a question.
As regards power, impeaching and all, these officials, they have the power to do things. Now, in a case where they use this power to the advantage of themselves over the minorities.
Thank you.
How can this be put in check, knowing that we are in a democratic, we are supposed to be in a democratic society?
Well, let's disagree on that before I answer your question. Because
continue what? There is a caller. Hold on. Engineer Martins. Okay. Hello. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, John. It's greeting you.
Happy New Year.
Okay, John, thank you. You heard what John has said.
Thank you. Now, what are the pillars of democracy? The rule of law is number one.
Yes.
The integrity of the ballot is number two. So this topic confirms that I'm right. Because if there were no issues around the rule of law, superscript would be as a topic. There are issues. Now, that's number one, and I've cited some of them.
No, we bring up, let me just correct that. We bring out topics for people to get informed.
That's what I'm saying.
We bring up topics for people to get educated. We bring up topics for people to understand what the society is all about and what it should be. But so not because there are issues, it's because I know there might be issues, but we're bringing topics. I want to clear that so that for those watching, we're bringing topics to make you know your right from your left, so you can be part of the discussion. Yes, continue.
There are definitely issues. Yes. That's number one. Number two is the integrity of the ballot. We were in this country when 35 governors had an election. They agreed, they all voted. 16 on one side, 19 on one side. In a democracy. They said the man who had 16 was the winner. We shouted all we could. They say he was the winner. How can 16 be better than 19? We have seen with video, photographs, underage voting. That's against the law. Is that your form of democracy? We have seen number of votes higher than number of registered voters. Is that your own definition of democracy? I know you will try to make it look good, but it's also dangerous because
it is not my, but what I'm trying to do, when you're going a place, when you're taking, because our viewers are learning, and I need to let them know what we're doing here on this platform. We are supposed to let them know their rights. If a government is not doing what they should do, we'll let them know. And we also make them know that if a government isn't doing it, you can also speak out.
Sure.
You can be part of it. Looking at the constituencies and looking at our constituents, because it's very important for
and you can
all of
activate
us.
the process.
Yes.
For example, I can tell my representative, and I think these things done by government constitute impeachable offenses. Now, if he accepts it, he can push it at the National Assembly. If he accepts it, if he disagrees with me, he doesn't have to push what he disagrees with. So we need to know the process, and we need to respect.
I need to read this for you and see. It in the rule of law is captured in our constitution as amended in the 1999 Constitution, and it said its providing shall have binding force on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it said it means that everybody must be done everything must be done according to the rule of law. And that's why we're looking at it. If they're not doing according to the rule of law, I've asked you this question. What should then be the responsibility of the people?
Very simple.
Don't we have a responsibility?
Very simple. The late Gani Fawehinmi, the lead founder of the National Conscience Party, he used to go to court each time he sees a deviation. That's the legal solution. And he went to court over 1,000 times because he saw over 1,000 deviations. Now, that's not the only solution. That's one solution. Because you can go and get an order compelling any person or authority to what is right from a court. Now, that's one way, and that was the way Gani Fawehinmi used to do it, Chief Gani Fawehinmi. May his soul rest in peace. Now, the other way to do it is politically, like I told you. I can activate my representative and tell him, contact him and say, this. This is what I see. What do you think? If he agrees with me, he can push it. So, you have many ways. It depends on your particular circumstance.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, because I know if I can remember, I was with you some time ago at the Ojota Park, that Freedom Park. I think I saw you there. But people complain to say this government isn't doing well. We've not seen that kind of show. Do you understand that took place the other year where everybody came and said the government shouldn't increase fuel and blah, blah, blah. And that we've not seen up till now.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that Nigerians are satisfied in a way with what is going on.
I don't think so, because you can't go and use one parameter.
But let me read this. The subsection 3 of that constitution says, further provides that if any other law is inconsistent with the provision of the constitution, this constitution shall prevail.
Supreme norm.
That's it.
Supreme norm.
So which one is prevailing right now? But let's get this caller. Hello, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Are you still sleeping? Are you in bed?
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead. I'm nodding. We can hear you. Oh, my God.
We can hear you.
We can hear you. I'm nodding my head. You can see me. Yes, you're already on. Go ahead. Okay, I know what you're talking about, but we have left the newspaper review segment. We're looking at upholding the rule of law. Maybe you need to call back. Thank you for calling.
Now, you remember I gave an example. You have to, like Tony said, it depends on your strategy. You that you feel concerned as a patriotic citizen. For example, if I had stolen Tony's phone, and he went to call the police, and the police comes and I bribe the policeman, and Tony gives up, I get away with it. But Tony should recognize that he can get a lawyer. Tony should recognize that he can write a petition against the policeman. If Tony gives up his right, the law doesn't go to fight for your right when you give it up. That's not what. So we as a citizen, we must not surrender our rights. And that's why those rights are clear in the Constitution. And like you read, the Constitution is the supreme norm, is the highest law. If the Electoral Act violates the Constitution, to that extent it's null and void.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
There's a saying back in the day that goes, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in writing. Now, all these things, the Constitution, the laws, are rights. Should I say, we are not enlightened enough about our rights. That's why we are being preyed on. The police, etc., the politicians.
I will not agree with you that that's the primary criterion. I agree that it's a factor.
Yes.
But I'm saying, in my opinion, personal opinion, I don't think it's the primary factor. The primary factor is that we have acquiesced.
No, most people...
Just like I was saying that
if
I steal your phone and you don't call the police, you have acquiesced.
Most people do not even know you can actually write a petition against the police.
Okay, if you don't want to write a petition, go to DPU and say, this man stole...
Because of time, we must begin to wrap up now because of time.
Okay.
You were a presidential candidate in 2015, and I guess that you had your agenda, you had your plans, you had a step where maybe pyramid, where you will use to lead the people. Looking at what is happening in the country, what would you have done differently from what is going on concerning the rule of law?
Everything. Everything.